Given the twists and turns so often synonymous with the genre, the world of horror is one that forever throws up plentiful questions. And sometimes, these questions won't actually be answered until years or even decades later. Of course, not all of these answers work out for the best, but sometimes the wait can actually be worth it. So with that in mind, I'm Andrew from What Culture Horror, and here are 10 horror movie answers fans had to wait for. Number 10. The Tall Man's Origins. Phantasm 4: Oblivion. For Don Coscarelli's Phantasm franchise, the first movie finds young Mike Pearson trying to convince his older brother and their pal Reggie that the local undertaker is actually the Tall Man, an otherworldly being who turns corpses into his minions. That first film was released in 1979, and it wouldn't be until 19 years later that we get some answers on the Tall Man. Those answers coming in Phantasm 4: Oblivion. Played by a chilling Angus Scrimm, the Tall Man had shown all kinds of powers by this point, from super strength to mimicry to telekinesis. Plus, he can summon his fancy sentinel spheres that are designed to drill through people's skulls. So is the Tall Man a sorcerer, a demon, a ghost, or something else? Well, as shown in Oblivion, the Tall Man was an innocent mortician known as Jebediah Morningside during the American Civil War. Eager to learn what lies beyond death, Jebediah built a dimension-hopping machine, and upon entering another reality, he was reborn as an entity beyond time and space. Number 9. The entity's true name. Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin. Given how Oren Peli's Paranormal Activity made nearly $200 million from an initial budget of just $15,000, there was always a good chance we get a sequel or two from this one. In fact, of the 6 theatrical Paranormal Activities so far, the franchise has taken home nearly $900 million from a combined budget of just $28 million. The point being, this has been a hugely successful franchise for Paramount Pictures, and with each passing film, there was still some uncertainty over the true intentions of the evil spirit behind all of this. That is, until Next of Kin revealed this presence to be Asmodeus, the King of Demons. Only able to access his full power in a male vessel, Asmodeus' enemies trapped his essence inside a female body, meaning he had to wait until a male was born within the family for him to regain his power. As shown, Katie of the first movie, and a few other movies, is an ancestor of Asmodeus' first female vessel, which is why the Demon King encouraged her to steal her nephew in Paranormal Activity 2. Number 8. How Freddy gained his power. Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. That actually wasn't all that final. The Final Nightmare may be viewed as one of, if not the worst Elm Street movies, with ropey special effects, awful dialogue, and a full-on slapstick Freddy Krueger. But one thing Freddy's Dead does have going for it is it explains why Freddy has his unique abilities. Here we learn how Freddy was hired by the Dream People, a trio of demons drawn to corrupted souls. Just before Krueger was burned alive by the parents of Elm Street, those entities turned him into a devilish dream spirit. And because every soul Freddy absorbs amplifies the Dream People's powers, the fedora sporting maniac was encouraged to kill as many people as possible, which he obviously was totally fine with because he's Freddy Krueger. Also, the Dream People caused the parents of Freddy's victims to enter a dreamlike psychosis where they tend to refuse that Freddy Krueger could have possibly ever returned. Number 7. Pinhead's backstory. Hellbound Hellraiser 2 and Hellraiser 3: Hell on Earth. The Hell Priest, aka Pinhead, may have only been in the first Hellraiser for barely 10 minutes, but the character's outstanding design and Doug Bradley's towering performance meant the Cenobite leader immediately became one of horror's most recognizable villains. It's not until the first 2 sequels though that we learn about the man behind the Hell Priest, that'd be British military officer Elliot Spencer. Disillusioned by the First World War, Elliot embraced a life of hedonism, eventually solving the lament configuration and being reborn as the sadomasochistic Pinhead. Although this backstory could have diminished the character, it instead benefited the franchise, as although Pinhead is evil personified, it's hard not to see him as somewhat of a tragic villain, particularly after watching Elliot's spirit trying to redeem himself and destroy his insidious form. Number 6. The Cube's purpose. Cube Zero. 1997's Cube centers on a group of strangers stuck inside a booby-trapped labyrinth with no idea who put them there or why. Although some details are given away, that first movie doesn't give anything close to a full explanation, with that reserved for prequel Cube Zero. Here we learn that cubes, yes there's more than one, it's plural, are built by the Izon Weapons Company, with death row inmates or political threats to the organization placed in these cubes. Also, if an Izon employee becomes problematic, they're lobotomized and placed in a cube, bringing the revelation that Kazan, the last survivor of the first movie, was a former Izon employee who'd had this very thing done to him. Even more depressing, if you somehow make it out of the cube, you're immediately killed. Number 5. Satan's Plan. Omen 3: The Final Conflict and The First Omen. Born off screen with his true parents never revealed, it took until Omen 3 and the first Omen for us to fully get the backstory of Damien Thorn, as in, the Antichrist. Omen 3, the final conflict, is so-so at best, with Sam Neill stealing the show as the adult Damien, but that film does fill in a few blanks. Namely, Damien's true purpose is to stop the second coming of Jesus Christ, which is due to happen on the 24th of March, 1981. As such, Damien's birth was orchestrated 32 years earlier so that he had enough time to rise to a position of power and stop Jesus' return. Buddy Christ be damned. As for who orchestrated Damien's birth, this year's surprisingly decent. The first Omen revealed it was none other than the Catholic Church, with a radical sect of a church unhappy with the rise of atheism, thus making a desperate deal with the devil to create the Antichrist and drive people back towards the church, because that sounds all kinds of sensible. Number 4. The reason Michael kills. Halloween, the curse of Michael Myers. John Carpenter's iconic Halloween is a perfect case of less is more. Here, there's no reason or rhyme behind the night he came home, with Michael Myers targeting Laurie Strode and her pals merely because he's a bit of a psychopath. Of course, it was only a matter of time before we'd learn more about the Shape's origins, with Halloween 2 establishing Michael and Laurie as siblings, and Michael then on a mission to kill any and all family members. While that development continues to split opinion to this very day, one thing we can all agree on is the ridiculousness of Halloween, the curse of Michael Myers. In this 6th film, we learn that Michael is controlled by the Druidic cult of Thorn, who every few decades curse an individual on Halloween, urging them to end their bloodline. That subplot was so despised, it's never been mentioned in the franchise again, and even caused the whole series to reset with Halloween H20. Number 3. The space jockey's identity. Prometheus. Ridley Scott's Prometheus may have been a mixed bag, to say the least, but it did at least explore a mystery from the original 1979 movie. In the first Alien, the Nostromo crew discover a colossal elephantine creature known only as the Space Jockey. Despite the intrigue around this being, nothing was revealed about him for more than 30 years, with Prometheus revealing this mammoth-sized fella to be part of an alien race known as engineers. These engineers, they seed worlds with their DNA to create life, which is what they did with mankind, and it's also indicated that the engineers either created or at least mutated the Xenomorphs. Number 2. The cause of the time loop. Happy Death Day to you. In Groundhog Day-inspired Happy Death Day, poor Tree Gelman is murdered by the masked babyface killer, only to wake up at the start of that day, trapped in a time loop where she's destined to be killed again, and again, and again, and again, and again, you get the idea, until she discovers the killer's identity and puts a stop to this. While no details are given as to why Tree's experiencing this, it's revealed in Happy Death Day to you that this space-time paradox was triggered by a quantum reactor on campus, because every college campus has one of those, right? This sequel does have plenty of fun with this reveal though, with Tree soon finding herself reliving the same day in another dimension, which just so happens to be a dimension where she has everything she'd ever wanted. Number 1. Everything about Jigsaw, the Saw franchise. John Kramer is such an iconic character, it's easy to forget how little was given away about the Jigsaw killer in that first Saw. The film's closing moments revealed John was dealing with a brain tumor and had developed a twisted appreciation for life, believing humanity only count their blessings when death is imminent. So he kidnaps people deemed ungrateful and places them in personalized traps that force them to fight to survive. Kramer's philosophy is only briefly covered in that first movie, making him come across as pretty darn insane. Watching the franchise back now though, and it's hard not to side with John. Well, apart from all the murder, of course, and every sequel feels like another piece of the Jigsaw, no pun intended. We learn about Jigsaw's former job, his family, the significance behind his puppet, his plan to maintain his legacy after his own death, highlighting how John Kramer was molded into a mass murderer.